Wealth whispers. That's what old money knows and new money forgets. Real wealth doesn't announce itself with designer logos and loud watches. It doesn't need validation. It moves through the world quietly, invisibly, dressed in ordinary clothes, eating at ordinary restaurants, living in houses that don't scream for attention. The loudest people in the room are rarely the richest. San Francisco is a city that forgot this lesson, a place where wealth became performance, where teenagers wore Supreme to signal their parents' stock options, where the size of your funding round became a personality trait, where everyone dressed like a billionaire, whether they had a billion or barely enough for rent. Marcus Whitfield loved this version of San Francisco. 44 years old, founder of Meridian Bank, a digital-first financial institution worth $9 billion. A man who had mastered the art of looking rich. Custom suits, watches that cost more than cars. A penthouse that had been featured in magazines most people couldn't afford to buy. He was at his flagship branch on Market Street when she walked in. Not for any particular reason. Marcus didn't need to visit branches, but he liked to see the way employees straightened when he appeared. Liked the small performances of respect that reminded him how far he'd come. The girl who entered didn't belong. That was his first assessment. Automatic, unconscious, the kind of sorting that happened before conscious thought could intervene. 11 years old, maybe 12. Clothes that were clean but worn. A jacket too big for her frame. Jeans with patches on the knees. Sneakers that had been white once but had surrendered to time. Hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. A backpack covered with pins and patches collected over years. She looked lost. Out of place. A child who had wandered into the wrong building looking for a bathroom or direction. She approached the reception desk with a confidence that didn't match her appearance. "I'd like to see my balance, please." The receptionist, a young woman trained to identify valuable clients by their accessories, smiled the smile reserved for lost children. "Hi, sweetie. Are your parents with you?" "No. I'm here alone." "Well, honey, this is a private bank. Maybe you're looking for, I have an account here." The girl's voice was steady, patient. "I'd like to see my balance." Marcus heard this from across the lobby. A child claiming to have an account at a bank where the minimum deposit was $500,000. He almost laughed out loud. "And what's your name, sweetheart?" the receptionist asked, humoring her. May Lynn Tanaka." The receptionist typed, frowned, typed again. "I'm sorry, I'm not finding anything under that name. Are you sure you have the right bank?" "Try my mother's name." The account was opened under her name, Sarah Lynn. More typing. The receptionist's expression shifted. Confusion first, then something else. "I need to get my manager." Marcus was intrigued now. The small drama unfolding across the lobby was more entertaining than anything else on his schedule. He walked closer, coffee in hand, positioning himself to observe. The branch manager appeared, a nervous man named Peterson, who spotted Marcus and became visibly more anxious. "Miss Tanaka, I see there is an account associated with that name, but it appears to be dormant. No activity in over 8 years." "I know," May said. "My mother never used it. And you want to access it now?" "I want to see my balance. That's all." Peterson looked uncomfortable. A child alone, asking to access a dormant account. This had complications written all over it. Marcus decided to intervene, or rather decided to enjoy himself. He stepped forward, put on his most charming smile, the one that worked on investors and journalists, and anyone else who needed to believe he was a good person. "What do we have here?" A young entrepreneur checking her portfolio. May looked at him. Her eyes were calm, not intimidated by his suit or his presence or the way everyone in the room seemed to orbit around him. "I just want to see my balance." "Your balance?" Marcus chuckled. "Sweetheart, do you understand what kind of bank this is? This isn't where you keep your allowance money. Do you even have an account here?" "Yes, a real account, with actual money?" "Yes." Marcus looked at Peterson, smiled the smile of a man about to teach a lesson. "Well, let's take a look then. Let's see this balance." He walked to the nearest terminal. The crowd parted. Peterson hesitated. "Sir, there are privacy protocols." She asked to see her balance. "I'm helping her see it. Customer service." He typed in the name, Sarah Lynn. The screen loaded. Marcus was already composing the gentle letdown in his head. The kind explanation that this wasn't the right place for her. The suggestion that maybe a credit union would be more appropriate. Then the number appeared, 1,427. $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion. Marcus stopped breathing, Behind him, May's voice was quiet, almost kind. Is there a problem, sir? The lobby froze. Tellers stopped mid-transaction. Clients lowered their phones. Even the ambient music seemed to fade into nothing. Every eye in the room moved between the screen and the girl in the second-hand jacket. Marcus stared at the number, blinked, checked the name again. Sarah Lynn. Account opened in 2007. No withdrawals. Ever. Just deposits. Stock transfers. Dividends accumulating for 17 years. That's not possible, he said. His voice was strange, hollow. Why not? May asked. Because. Marcus turned to her, really looked at her for the first time. The worn clothes, the old backpack, the shoes held together by stubbornness. Because you don't look like someone with $1 billion. What does someone with $1 billion look like? Marcus didn't have an answer. Peterson had gone pale. His career was flashing before his eyes. The way he'd almost dismissed this child. The way his boss had mocked her in front of everyone. Miss Tanaka, Peterson stammered. I apologize for any confusion. If you'd like to step into a private office, we can discuss your account in detail. I don't need a private office. May's voice was calm, unbothered. I just came to check my balance. Now I've seen it. She turned to leave. Wait, Marcus found himself speaking before thinking. Who was your mother? Sarah Lynn. That name. I've heard it somewhere. May stopped, turned back. She was an engineer, employee number 7 at a company called Nexus Labs. Marcus felt the ground shift. Nexus Labs, the startup that had become a $200 billion tech giant, the company that had minted more millionaires than any other in Silicon Valley history. Employee number 7 would have had founding shares, would have watched those shares multiply 1,000-fold over 2 decades. Your mother was at Nexus from the beginning. She helped build the core architecture. Worked there for 15 years. May paused. She died 8 months ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Are you? The question landed like a slap. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. My mother lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Oakland. May continued. She drove a Honda Civic until it had 300,000 miles. She bought my clothes at thrift stores, cooked dinner every night, took the bus to work even when she could have bought the bus company. Why? Because she believed that money was a tool, not an identity. She used to say that the moment you start living like you're rich, you start thinking like you're rich, and thinking like you're rich means you stop seeing people. May looked around the lobby, at the marble floors, the crystal chandelier, the employees in designer clothes, serving clients, who measured human worth in decimal points. She saw people, May said. That was her superpower. She could walk into a room full of executives and spot the janitor who was having a hard day. She'd remember the barista's name. She'd ask the parking attendant about his kids. She looked at Marcus. When she got sick, you know who visited her. Not the CEOs she'd made rich. Not the investors who owed their fortunes to her code. The janitor visited. The barista. The parking attendant. People she'd seen when no one else bothered to look. Marcus felt something cracking inside him. A wall he didn't know he'd built. She left me instructions. May continued. She reached into her backpack, pulled out a letter, worn at the edges, read so many times the paper had softened. She told me exactly what to do with the money, who to help, what causes to support, how to use it without letting it use me. And coming here was that in the instructions. May nodded. She told me to find the fanciest bank in the city, walk in wearing my regular clothes, ask to see my balance, and when someone laughed at me, she looked directly at Marcus. She wanted me to show them what they couldn't see. She held up the letter. She wrote something for people like you. Want to hear it? Marcus nodded. He couldn't speak. May read aloud. To whoever laughed at my daughter, you looked at her and saw nothing. Old clothes, no jewelry, no signals of status. And because of that, you decided she didn't matter. That's not a failure of perception. That's a failure of character. Wealth isn't what you wear, or what you drive, or how big your office is. Wealth is how much you see, how much you give, how many people you lift, instead of look down on. My daughter is the richest person you'll ever meet, not because of the number in that account, because she knows how to see people. I hope someday you learn the same. May folded the letter. The lobby was silent. Marcus Whitfield, billionaire visionary, man who had everything, stood frozen, exposed, stripped of every armor he'd spent decades building. A child had walked into his bank and dismantled him with the truth. My mother had one more instruction, May said. She told me to ask you a question. What question? When you die, who's going to visit you? The people you impressed, or the people you saw? She shouldered her back. Think about it, Mr. Whitfield. And she walked toward the door. Wait. The word left Marcus's mouth. Before he knew he was speaking. Desperate. Raw. The voice of a man watching something essential walk out the door. May stopped. Hand on the glass. She didn't turn around. Please, Marcus said. Just wait. She turned. 11 years old. Patient. Giving him one more moment he hadn't earned. Marcus looked around the lobby. At his employees watching. At clients pretending not to listen. At the empire he'd built on the foundation of being seen. Being admired. Being feared. Your mother's question, he said. I know the answer. Do you? No one. His voice cracked. No one would visit me. I have 1,000 contacts in my phone, 100 employee investors on 3 continents, and if I died tomorrow they'd send flowers and move on. Not one of them would sit by my bed. Not one. May said nothing. Just listened. I grew up with nothing. Marcus continued. Trailer park in Nevada. Food stamp. A father who left and a mother who worked herself to death. Trying to keep us afloat. I swore I'd never be poor again, never be invisible, never be the person people looked through instead of looked at. He gestured at the lobby, at the marble and glass, and everything he'd accumulated. So I built all this, made myself impossible to ignore, and somewhere along the way, I became the person who ignores everyone else, the person who looks at a child and sees nothing, because she's wearing old clothes. He took a step toward May. Your mother was right. I don't see people. I see what they can do for me. I see their net worth, their connections, their utility, and the moment they stop being useful, they stop existing. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to die alone. The words came out broken, honest in a way Marcus hadn't been in decades, and I just realized that's exactly what's going to happen if I keep living like this. May studied him. The way her mother must have studied people, looking past the surface to something underneath. What do you want from me, Mr. Whitfield? I don't know. Forgiveness, a second chance, some kind of absolution from an 11-year-old who understands more about life than I do. I can't give you those things. I'm just a kid. Then what can you give me? May thought about it. Really thought. My mother used to say that change doesn't start with big gestures. It starts with small ones. Noticing the person serving your coffee, learning the security guard's name, asking someone how they're doing and actually listening to the answer. She reached into her backpack, pulled out a small notebook, worn, filled with her mother's handwriting. This was her. She called it her seeing journal. Every day she'd write down 3 people she really saw, not just looked at, saw. Their names, something about their lives, what they might be carrying that no one else noticed. She held it out. You can have it. Maybe start your own. Marcus took the notebook like it was made of glass, opened it, page after page of names, details, small observations about ordinary people living ordinary lives. Maria at the coffee shop. Her son started kindergarten today. She's nervous but won't show it. James, the parking attendant, saving for his mother's surgery, works 2 jobs, never complains. Dr. Chen, lost her husband last year, still wears her wedding ring, smiles anyway. Hundreds of entries, a lifetime of paying attention. She saw all these people, Marcus whispered. She saw everyone. That's why her funeral had 400 people. Not executives, not investors, just people she'd noticed over the years, people who felt seen by her. Marcus closed the notebook, pressed it against his chest. I don't deserve this. Probably not. May almost smiled. But my mom believed people could change. She wrote about it in her letter to me. She said the cruelest people are usually the most broken, that they build walls because they're scared, not because they're strong. She picked up her backpack. I don't know if you'll change, Mr. Whitfield. That's your choice. But my mom wanted you to have a chance. That's why she sent me here. Not to humiliate you, to wake you up. She walked to the door, stopped one more time. Oh, and one more thing. The money in that account. I'm not keeping it. My mom left instruction. It's going to a foundation, scholarships for kids from trailer parks and housing projects. Kids like you used to be, kids who need someone to see them. She pushed open the door. Maybe someday one of those kids will become a billionaire, and maybe they'll remember what it felt like to be invisible, and maybe they won't make the same mistakes you did. She stepped outside. Goodbye, Mr. Whitfield. I hope you find what you're looking for. The door closed behind her. Employees eventually returned to work. Clients resumed their transactions. The machinery of wealth continued its endless rotation. But something had shifted.
Marcus looked down at the notebook in his hands, at the handwriting of a woman who had died with more love than he would ever know, at the names of people who had mattered to her, because she had decided they mattered. He opened to a blank page, pulled out a pen. For a moment, he didn't know what to write. He'd spent so long looking past people that he wasn't sure he remembered how to look at them. Then he thought of the receptionist, the young woman who had first spoken to May. He didn't know her name, had never bothered to learn it. He walked to the reception desk. "Excuse me," she looked up, nervous. The boss was approaching. "Yes, Mr. Whitfield, what's your name?" She blinked. In 3 years of working here, he had never asked. Amanda, Amanda, he wrote it in the notebook. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years, sir. "And how are you doing?" "Not at work, in life. How are you actually doing?" Amanda stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "I'm okay. My grandmother's been sick, so it's been a lot, but she's getting better." Marcus wrote it down. Amanda, grandmother sick, getting better, 3 years. Never asked her name until today. "I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother. I hope she recovers fully." "Thank you, sir." He nodded, walked away, felt something unfamiliar in his chest. It wasn't much. One name, one small act of seeing, but it was a start. Outside, somewhere in San Francisco, an 11-year-old girl was walking home with an empty backpack and a full heart. Her mother's last lesson had been delivered. The rest was up to him.